Welcome to the beat, everyone. I'm Ari Melber. It is Friday, but feels like it could be any busy news day, and there will be news going into the weekend, as you know. We are tracking first of all the situation in the Mideast. Iran today launching missiles targeting Israel through Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, the biggest cities there. It follows what was Israel's major attack on targeted Iranian nuclear facilities, military sites, as well as targeting personnel. So that is a big story. Later in the hour, we will hear from a retired military general about what is a situation that has many again on edge in the Middle East. So that is coming up. I wanted you to know that's coming up because it's a big international story. While we begin on the home front with the first images of something that is also military related, but not in a foreign conflict. We are talking about Donald Trump very clearly ordering and wanting the visuals of United States Marines patrolling American streets. This is kind of capping what has been a week of escalating use of federal force tested in the courts. Donald Trump trying to clearly seize on the situation in Los Angeles, a situation that has had isolated violence dating to last weekend around basically a couple blocks, and trying to escalate that into what he's doing now, which is saying he gets to keep the National Guard there for days on end and now puts Marines on the ground. Experts say the system is flashing red, that lines have been crossed, and we can give you several examples of why experts are concerned that this president, apart from his policies, meaning whether you agree with things he ran on or what he says he wants to do for America, why this president is actually abusing the powers that he has and trying to aggrandize into more. There's a crackdown on dissent and on the opposition party and on a level of tactics, both from the streets and the Marines, all the way up to what was the highly dramatic arrests, I should say, not technically an arrest, but what looked like the beginning of an arrest, but the cuffing and pinning of a senator who was then released without arrest or charges yesterday. In fact, we heard from that senator here on MSNBC last night. We could show you the 200 Marines in LA today amid the protests over these tactics and immigration policy. They join what are over 4,500 National Guard troops, quite a force there. The Marines mobilized earlier this week, so technically the president had earlier ordered this. The news today is that they're now here, having gone through the transfer and some level of basically short-term training. This is an unusual and extreme move because they're not actually doing something that they are ready to do. And we know people in the Marines, like other armed services, are ready to do all kinds of things because they go through often years of training. But that training didn't prepare them for this because this is not something any recent president has ordered. Military level force. You see what they're dressed for. You see the weapons of war, which is what Americans usually rely on for our soldiers to protect us abroad where there may be skirmishes or wars, not to be walking around the streets of LA and watching cars come and go. Now, they've been trained on what they call crowd control and de-escalation. The Marines are ostensibly under the Trump order there to protect the ICE personnel and some federal property. Officials have already said that while this is an extreme measure, they want to explain they don't expect these Marines to be conducting the arrests of American citizens, which would be another line crossed that may not even be legal. The last time we saw U.S. Marines used in any way, there was far, far more unrest, meaning at a security level, there was an explanation that really things might have been reaching a level of disorder in actually that same city, as it were, under the Rodney King protest, that they were necessary. So it's over 30 years since we've seen anything like this, with a far smaller predicate sort of cause or trigger this time. In Washington, military vehicles are moving into position. We're seeing tanks, trucks, howitzers, helicopters flying overhead, all part of a parade that is very clearly scheduled on President Trump's birthday, while also having the other celebration, or some people look at it as cover, the 250th anniversary of the actual U.S. Army. The first military parade in Washington since 1991. And while anniversaries do sometimes correlate with parades, so this isn't completely out of pocket, we should remind you that it's been that long, and the last time we saw a Washington-based parade in the modern era, it was because of the end of an actual war, the war in the Gulf. This is also galvanizing an opposition. Protests now planned against what people, activists, are calling Trump's effort to end democracy, to be a king, are, as you can see, according to some of the digital tracking, planned all over America. I mean, that is not just blue states. It's not just big cities. They're telling us, and we'll see tomorrow, we'll report on it, but they're saying they have plans with people RSVP'd in hundreds of places in America. They're calling these No Kings protests. And Donald Trump has certainly spent the week with his administration aggrandizing what sometimes look like more king-like than democratic powers. We also saw sporadic protests last night, some of them coming together late in the day, organic it seemed. In Congress, Democrats completely united against that forcible removal and cuffing of a United States senator who was trying to question the DHS secretary in that really intense moment yesterday. Democrats say it's a 5-alarm fire, as Axios reports it, and they are taking a more aggressive tack, getting loud in the calls of Congress.
And everybody can draw their own conclusions. You can see it's a heated debate here. I'm not going to respond to that.
Every day, Donald Trump is making this nation look more and more like a fascist state.
We are a democracy, but we can lose that democracy. It can be gone.
We need to subpoena Kristi Noem.
We're here to denounce the felonious assault of Senator Padilla.
There you hear it, Democrats pushing back and saying it's now, according to them, some of the federal agents that are doing the crime. A felonious assault is a claim. We have not heard from Padilla about, say, suing or that becoming a criminal matter, how the agents treated him. We did hear from him at length on MSNBC last night. But even if people might debate the skirmish, if you watched what happened in that video, and many, many millions of Americans have seen it with their own eyes, it is one of a larger data set. In other words, there were some people who responded, some Republicans who said, well, Padilla was being loud. What was the plan? The DHS is allowed to hold a press conference. And the DHS itself said they viewed him as a potential attacker. And they also said a false thing that he didn't identify himself. He did. But that's just a debate over what ultimately was about 1 minute and 10 seconds of interaction between a United States senator and federal agents. When you broaden out, the pattern is the problem. So you could debate and parse and fly spec any one incident. And indeed, we know, I say this with all humility, lawyers, politicians, journalists, we do that all the time. You get into this little bit of parsing and what was it? And I could see it the other way. But tonight, as we end what has been a scandalous week for the use of federal powers in the United States, just want to briefly broaden out and remember, it was also agents acting under the Trump administration that arrested and indicted a Democratic mayor in his own town of Newark, Ras Baraka, when he was outside an ICE facility. So we have that footage, which again, you could debate. But if you ask the Trump DOJ, was that the right thing? Was the mayor in the wrong? The answer now, weeks later, is no. The mayor was in the right. The DOJ was wrong. They backed down in court and dropped the whole case. Then you have, of course, this video that rocked the nation Thursday yesterday, you see on top. And then you have another Democratic lawmaker, Congresswoman McIver. The same day as Mayor Baraka, his case now dropped, she was also arrested and later indicted for that interaction. And the difference here is, when you look at her case, it's ongoing. They are actually continuing to take the position that she should be prosecuted, convicted, and imprisoned for the same set of similar overlapping events that happened with the mayor that day. Take it all together, and you can see what looks like the alleged abuse of power. Here's what Senator Padilla said, telling us this just last night.
Have you heard anything from a single Republican member of the U.S. Senate or the House about what happened to you?
I've been asking all my Republican colleagues since the beginning of Trump's term, when is enough enough?
Do you view it as excessive force or an effort to intimidate the opposition party?
Look, personally, I think it was excessive, but that's a tone and approach that this administration has chosen to take. In many cases, I'm convinced it's unlawful and unconstitutional, and I have to do my job as a senator to insist on information and accountability and the rule of law.
That's the senator's take there. He spoke with me and our colleague, reporter Jacob Soboroff, who's been all over this story there on the ground in L.A. His point is it's part of something larger. And this is what's been happening in California, but it clearly looks like a test case. There are very few people on the left, right, center, or experts who think Donald Trump is doing all of this with the Marines and with these type of crackdowns just to stop, say, next week, or stop only with California. And as the governor of that state pointed out, the orders, which have been tested in court, but right now they have not been overruled in court. Trump is able to use the National Guard lawfully right now, although that could change. I put it in quotes because the Supreme Court hasn't weighed in. But all of that's going on the ground in LA with the claimed power to do it anywhere in the country. Now, an appeals court has basically balked at what was initially a district court effort to intercede to say maybe Trump excelled on the powers. Instead, the appeals court based out of California says Trump can keep the Guard deployed for now. That is an initial, basically, step of progress for the administration. We can't call it a victory yet because, again, as you know from watching the news, it could go up to the Supreme Court and change again. But for now, they have progress in the first key round. Now, Governor Newsom has pushed back, and that underlying order was 36 pages, and it argued, according to the judge, that Trump's actions were illegal, that they exceeded the scope of authority and violated aspects of the Constitution, and they referred to an unlawful militarization of LA, which could inflame the protests, the increase of hostilities, even a loss of life. So we're showing you some of the judicial reasoning that many people say is still a concern if the presence of these kind of highly militarized troops, 4,000 plus, to patrol ostensibly just 4 or 5 city blocks, is itself part of the problem, part of the escalation. The judge's concerns may have been valid, but I'm reporting to you tonight, the more senior court here said, nope, president can still do this for now. Now, Newsom's office says he's still confident in the rule of law, and this was before the appeals ruling. This is what he said.
Some of the enduring principles of our founding fathers, who in response to monarchy, in response to King George, set out to frame a new construct to elevate and support individual freedom, liberty. He is not above or beyond constitutional constraints. Constitution sets forth limits. The president is a constitutional officer.
That's the governor's statement. If you look at this by any individual incident, you can debate it to death. If you broaden out what the governor is saying, what the district judge said, what Mayor Baraka told us, what Senator Padilla told us, and what we see overall is a clear pattern of inviting these clashes and then using far more federal force than usual, which is why even the Trump administration quickly backed down about the mayor and didn't ultimately arrest Senator Padilla, but sort of said, okay, cuff, let him go. And yet they barrel forward in the other areas, which brings us to Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. Her case is still alive. Trump DOJ claiming that she has broken the law in that same incident on that same day with the mayor, and that they're going to move forward. They've now formally indicted her. And these are serious crimes they claim, while the opposition and many legal experts say it looks like something unlawful on the government side, targeting her as a member of the opposition party, abusing power. She is in the heart of all this, even if, and perhaps deliberately, she might be a little less, quote, politically famous than some of the other figures we've seen. And she is our special guest as we cap this extraordinary and at times disturbing week in 90 seconds. We turn now to a lawmaker and, technically, in Trump's America, a criminal defendant. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver is a Democrat from New Jersey. She has been critical of the Trump administration's immigration policies and is now facing prosecution by the Trump Justice Department. Good evening and welcome to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
There are many reasons to have you on. You were elected. You've had these policy positions. We've reported on that. But it's no secret that part of why you're in the news right now is that your case continues while others were dropped. What is the status of your case? And do you view it as a potential misunderstanding, a good faith debate, or, as so many experts and critics have said, unlawful targeting of you basically as a member of the opposition?
So right now, we just got an indictment this past week. We're looking forward to going to court to enter a plea, which we will be pleading. I will be pleading not guilty. And we're looking forward to my day in court. I mean, the facts are on my side. I feel very confident about that. I was at Delaney Hall to do my job. And I think that this is all political intimidation. And this is just the character of this administration and constantly the behavior that we see each and every day, from judges to universities to to our senator yesterday. You see constant behavior of this. And so we're really looking forward to court.
Right. You think that whatever is wrong with the Trump Justice Department will not overwhelm what might be right with the fact-finding process? You think a judge or a jury will see this very differently from the prosecutors?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen a lot of these cases go to judges, and judges overturn many of the things that the administration tries to do each and every day. And so I feel very confident in the court system. I feel very confident in the jury. And once all of the facts play out, they get an opportunity to see exactly what happened from start to finish there, not just specific clips that they want to play, and run on Fox News all the time.
Did you think something like this could happen if you ran for office and engaged in government service? Is this something that America's had many problems and there's been many crackdowns on marginalized communities, but is this something that you thought in 2025 would be part of your cost of public service?
Absolutely not. I served 7 years on the Newark City Council, the largest city in New Jersey. I ended my career there as the council president, and I never thought I would get to Congress and have to deal with this or be charged with a crime or assault at that, facing 16 plus years in jail. I just never thought I would be here. I came to Congress to help people, to fight for my community, what many, members come to Congress to do. And I did not think that we would be facing times like this. Every day I keep saying I wake up and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Because that is just that's the only thing we can say every day. That's what the American people are saying. That is what people are saying that I represent. They're like, hey, what is this today? Because every day is chaotic, it's confusion, and it's truly unbelievable.
Yeah, and so here we are. You're doing your job. I'm trying to do my job. We're two people sitting across the table. We know the cameras are on. We know people can watch it. People can see the whole interview. They see a clip on the internet. So I want to keep it real and ask you in that spirit, is there something about you that is so threatening or scary to them?
Not that I thought. I mean, I am a young African American woman from the city of Newark. I love serving people. I don't find myself to be intimidating or dangerous or any of those things that the Justice Department have been saying about me. It's truly unfortunate to be in this situation, but at the same time, it goes back to the political intimidation about this administration. And because I'm speaking out, because I'm doing my job, I think they want to continue to silence leaders and, stop their critics from, speaking out against them. And so they'll go to any extent, especially any extent of cruelty, to make an example. And I am that example now.
And you say to silence you, did the Trump DOJ float or push anything other than going to trial?
I mean, absolutely. The acting U.S. attorney for New Jersey wanted me to admit to something that I did not do. That was not right. That's what she put in her tweet that we saw that night.
But if you had done that, were they saying they would drop the whole thing?
Yes. Yep. That is exactly what.
So that's a lot. I mean, again, that's a lot of pressure because some people would say, gosh, let somebody else fight this out. You're saying the whole thing could go away if you just said something.
Correct. And I was not doing that. I was not going to waver on that. Like I said, I went to Delaney Hall with my colleagues. We went there for an oversight visit and we didn't do anything wrong. The whole tent situation that took place, DHS and Homeland Security and ICE, they created that, not us. And so absolutely, I was not going to do that.
We try to deal on the facts here, and we talk to sources, and we will fact check them before, during, and after. But we do that. And so I want to give you the benefit of responding to one of the key players in all this, Donald Trump's very assertive border czar, Tom Homan, who said this about you on this program.
She shoved an officer. She put hands on her officer. That's unacceptable. These ICE officers, and when you cause a ruckus like that, then that makes that facility unsecure because officers who should be dealing with the prisoners, very serious prisoners, criminals in that facility, they're dealing with the ruckus outside.
DOJ will win that case?
What I saw, I think she put hands on an officer. She shoved an officer. She needs to pay the consequences.
Quote, she put hands on an officer, she needs to pay the consequences. Is he lying?
First of all, I disagree with everything that he's saying. That's why it was a long pause when you asked him, would they win the case? Because I don't think he even understands what happened that day. It's been a lot of, information that's come out of his mouth that wasn't factual from the point of like, we didn't get a tour till we did get a tour, just all of the different things that he was saying. So I disagree with everything that he's saying. And the bottom line is we're going to go to court.
Mhm.
All of the facts are going to come out, and they're going to be on my side when it gets to that point.
And your point on the tour is that as a member of Congress, you have federal oversight and you ultimately toured the facility. This isn't like a Disneyland tour. This is
Correct.
the kind of tour where you're actually inspecting, and they let you do that with a group after what he calls that incident.
Correct. We went there for an oversight visit, which Congress has the right to do. This facility had just opened up, and we had heard a lot of back and forth about the things that were happening there. And so we went there as members, and we've done this in the past. We went to a facility not too far from there to have an oversight visit. Didn't have this kind of approach, but we did have some delay in trying to, get in and get the tour done. But after ICE, Homeland Security created the situation. They then decided to finally give us the tour that we waited for, and even offered us a beverage in the midst of that. So all of this, that they're saying out of their mouths that happened. But then I get a tour, which I'm there to do my job, which you should have been provided me this tour hours before. We had the tour, me and my colleagues look at the facility, tour the facility, speak to some detainees, get offered a beverage, a ginger ale to be exact. And then after that, we depart. So, that's what we were there for, to do our jobs.
So here's my final question to you. You're going through a lot here. You seem calm and ready, but there's a whole process to this, attacks on time, energy, and the uncertainty of this situation with what they're trying to do with policing and federal powers in America. What do you say to people who look up at this and say, hey, I'm not even a congressman, and I need to keep my job, and I got my life, and they say they're just going to tap out, even if they're very concerned about the alleged abuse of power? What do you say to them tonight?
So I say to the American people that we cannot be discouraged, not in this moment. Our democracy is on the line. We are literally getting our democracy stripped away from us every second of the day. Flushed down the toilet with this administration, and we cannot allow that to happen. It's the one thing we love about being here in America, about being Americans, about having the freedom to disagree, to criticize. That's fine. That's not illegal to do, or hold people accountable. Not illegal, once again. And we have to continue to stay strong against this administration, to fight back. And I know me as a member, what I'm doing, I'm going to continue providing oversight. I'm going to continue serving the people of the 10th Congressional District in New Jersey. And I'm not going to waver on that. And no matter what they try to throw at me, I know that the facts are on my side, and I will not be defeated in serving the people who have elected me to be here.
Congresswoman McIver, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to fit in a break, but coming up, the backlash to all of these federal powers is brewing. As we were just discussing, we have a special guest on that and a retired four-star general on the big parade. We are ending a week where the Trump administration has continued to press how far it can go in using federal and sometimes military powers. Remember, there is a long-standing legal limit, a bar on the U.S. military from all the way back to 1878, including the Guard, from doing policing and law enforcement. That's why, unlike some countries, you rarely see the troops on American streets. General Barry McCaffrey is an acclaimed retired four-star Army general and our MSNBC military analyst. Good evening to you tonight. Is it a problem, what the president has tried to do this week, both with the Guard, the Marines, and your views on this coming parade?
Well, I think there's a widespread, among many, to include me, concern. The president is acting in an increasingly authoritarian manner outside of law. Sometimes it's obvious, birthright citizenship. Other times it's debatable. When you look at the California, Los Angeles situation, on the face of it, it looks obvious that it was deadly serious political theater on the part of the President of the United States to bring 4,000 plus guardsmen on active duty over the objections of the governor, over the objections of Karen Bass, the mayor, is a very objective, thoughtful person. Never mind to bring in active duty Marines. So I think it masks the real problem, however, Ari. The real problem is the president ran for office saying, I'm going to deport 10 or 11 million illegal migrants to the United States. And is he going to be able to do that? Does he understand he's going to crash the economy agriculture, construction, the service industries, never mind make us look like Germany in the 1930s. So the background problem is we've got to think through what will be a catastrophe for the U.S., which is trying to eject 11 million hardworking, honest people.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and you saying it concerns you as a general that it looks autocratic or a potential misuse of the military is something. We have you here about that, but obviously also want to get your expertise on the unrest in the Middle East. We've seen some of the aftermath in Tehran, Iran. Israel launched what they dub preemptive airstrikes over nuclear facilities. Iran hitting back with missiles into Israel today. It's an escalation of a sort that comes at a time when the Mideast has been roiled for years. What can you tell us about this?
Well, I think the Israelis correctly said to themselves, the Iranians are on the verge of actually putting together 10 to 15 nuclear weapons, potentially in the 90 days. They saw they had a window of opportunity in which Iran is basically their air defense had been almost nullified. Their proxies, whether it's Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Syrian regime was knocked out. They understood that there was a stalled negotiation going on, which they had been excluded from. And so I think they executed a longstanding plan with extraordinary success. Just astonishing that they decapitated a lot of the military leadership in one strike and are doing significant damage to the nuclear capability. They cannot destroy the Iranian nuclear capability. They don't have the power. We could do it, I think, in a 90-day air campaign with 30,000-pound bunker busting bombs, which the Israelis don't have. So I actually have a feeling, though, Ari, at the end of the day, this may well contribute to getting Iran back to the negotiating table and achieving some outcome that's less dangerous than where we are now.
Understood. I wanted to get your view on that. Before we let you go, we've prepared something that I want to share with you and our viewers as we try to make sense of this lines crossed. Past military leaders speaking out against the use of forces inside the U.S. Let's take a look. We're gonna pull this up. Do we have it? I'm just checking, General, with my control room. Is it 5-10 seconds, or do we need to wait? About a couple more seconds. So we're switching stories, which part of what we do around here, General. But this is basically looking past over congressional hearings, times under oath, so we can kind of learn something from military experts. Take a look.
The option to use active duty forces in a law enforcement role should only be used as a matter of last resort. We are not in one of those situations now.
Active duty troops are trained for warfighting and not policing.
Use of U.S. military people inside the United States. We don't sign up for the internal thing. We sign up to protect the away game, if you will. There are other people very capable of taking care of the home game. Law enforcement, people like that.
You don't do it with the Army because it's illegal. And we've had a distrust of putting the Army into our streets because the police have a difficult job, but the police understand the Fourth Amendment. They have to go to judges. They have to get warrants. It has to be specific.
Law and order is a civil function under the Constitution of the United States. Civil enforcement, law enforcement authorities, not the U.S. military.
We are not allowed to help enforce the law. We don't do that.
It was not necessary to employ active duty troops in response to the civil unrest occurring in our nation. Local, state, and federal police, backed up by the National Guard under governor control, could and continually can effectively handle the security situation in every case across the country.
Combat Marines are trained and exercise in just that, engaging in ground combat. They're not trained and they do not exercise in crowd control.
The president cannot put troops in for law enforcement in the United States without either declaring the situation an insurrection or being asked to do so by the governor of a particular state.
Now, I've just got 30 seconds. Your view on the import of that limit.
Well, look, there's a difference between the National Guard under governor's control do have law enforcement powers. And after the murder of George Floyd, there were 96,000 guardsmen in 30 states activated, and they assisted law enforcement officers. The active duty military, a fundamental principle we have is the Posse Comitatus Act, which says we do not conduct law enforcement operations. We don't arrest people, investigate, or collect evidence.
Yeah. General, that's why I wanted to, again, we had a little delay, wanted to show you that. We'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure. Thank you. We'll be right back. Breaking news out of the tense scenes in LA. New video that appears to show what looks like U.S. Marines detaining an individual there in Los Angeles. You can see this on your screen. That's active duty troops doing what would appear to be policing, restraining, detaining, or arresting on the streets of LA. This would be the first known detention of what looks to be a civilian. That is, if it's not a training exercise or some other exception, what looks to be an actual civilian surrounded by United States Marines in Los Angeles. This is something people have warned about, and we are now tracking. We wanted to give you that video as soon as we got it. We're going to fit in a quick break. But when we return, we have a guest, Tyler Perry, who says leaders, artists, and billionaires like himself must speak out against Trump's attack on the rule of law. Trump's autocratic efforts are increasingly in American cities and on people's minds. Tomorrow, we'll see more military in the parade and planned protests of many people saying no kings. Trump has responded accordingly, going after any dissent from the opposition party to Harris supporters like Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen, and telling critics they should be quiet. There are some interested and talented people who come by here. We appreciate all of them, but this is one of those days where we are extra excited. For an artist of so many talents, I bet you know many types of work he has created in this world. Tyler Perry, the director, actor, producer, playwright. He is also an entrepreneur, a billionaire media mogul. Oprah says he is a true visionary and trailblazer. He's known for so many things. If you go back far enough, you have the Medea character, a box office hit to the tune of a global billion. He's produced over 20 different TV series. So if you say we work hard on this single show, he's done 20 of them, many of them across the years, and directed 30 films and counting. His new Netflix project is the film Straw, starring Taraji P. Henson.
You don't know how hard it is to take care of my baby or for what I make. I can't get half of what she needs. Nobody cares. Nobody sees us. This is my life, over and over.
Tyler Perry joins us. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Really great to
watch
have
you all
you.
the time. Watch the beat all the time.
Thank you. Wow. So blue sky, as we say. I know you're promoting a movie, you got other stuff, but blue sky, the environment we're in right now in this second term of this president, crackdowns on artists, crackdowns on DEI. What do you see here?
I'm extremely concerned about this assault on the rule of law is the biggest thing that has me concerned right away, because if that's eroded and gone away and we end up in a constitutional crisis, then it's over. What do we have? And so many things are leaning to this administration's favor when it comes to the Supreme Court and some of the decisions that have been made. It's been mind-boggling to me that I'm just blown away that someone could actually do this. And I know that if Obama had done any of this, he wore a tan suit and it was a scandal, this entire country who supported him would have been in uproar.
If he freed violent insurrections, we're serving 20-year terms for sedition.
Yeah, and I and knowing how much I paid in taxes, it's even this year, it's just like to just free someone who's tax evasion. It's so unfair to the people who are doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to get into it? We go back and forth.
Yeah,
but this is, like much of your work, something that looks at what pain and adversity can lead to. Tell us about the story, what inspired it.
I wanted to write this movie for everybody who is not seen. There's a line in the movie where she says, "Nobody sees us, nobody pays attention to us." And I wanted to write this movie for everyone who's just carrying a lot. It doesn't feel like anybody in the country or anybody in the world cares. The thing about this lead character that Taraji plays, she's a single mother raising her child, and she finds herself with these compounding circumstances. And I think the theme of the movie, one of the characters says, people don't know how expensive it is to be poor. So what I wanted to do was just shine a light on what people are going through every day, and that's what this movie's about.
Let's look at what's a difficult scene here that seems to humanize a mother who might lose custody.
Okay.
My daughter is safe with me! Teacher and the principal said she comes to school very hungry.
I work 2 jobs, okay? I work 2 jobs to make sure we have what we can to eat.
What are we seeing there?
First of all, I'm watching Taraji just play this role. Even in the moments when she was doing these scenes, it was just so real, her being a single mother. And on her graduation day from Howard University, she took her 1-year-old on stage with her because it was like, people didn't think I would do it and graduate. So she really could relate to this character. But what you're seeing there more than anything is just a mother who is doing everything she can. And the situation started to compound and compound. Hence the title, Straw, the final straw that makes it all go left.
Well, you know what Mos Def Yassine Bey said?
Tell me.
The straw that broke the camel's back, what's the secret? A million other straws underneath it.
Always you, man. Always you. Always you. I can count on you to quote it.
I want to ask you about criticism. It's interesting. Your criticism level seems to be higher than other people at your success level.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree. If there are people at my success level.
Okay, bars. So I just want to read one, if it's all right with you. And this is from Teray. He said, Perry's serving an audience that is underserved by Hollywood, he argues. And he says, and he's speaking as a black man in America, he says, especially black Southern women who don't see themselves in Hollywood fare. He says his grandmother loves this stuff. And then he says, quote, I can't watch it without cringing.
Yeah.
What do you take of that? Is it just out of bounds off the whole conversation, or is there something there that you deal with?
First of all, he's brilliant. Like I've watched him. I pay attention to him. He's brilliant. However, I can understand why he doesn't relate to it, because there's a highbrow level of Negro who doesn't understand what I do and how I do it, and there's this need to look down upon it to make themselves feel a certain way about it, rather than embracing and understand what it is. Because there's a sense of moving away from where we come from, forgetting that our mothers were actually maids and grandmothers were maids and helped, and all the things that we had to do to get us to be in the place that we're in. Now, I don't know about his. It's almost like Spike Lee. You know, Spike Lee's mother was an educator, so I can relate to that. My mother worked at a Jewish community center with preschool kids most of my childhood, and my father was a carpenter. So my upbringing is very Southern. It's very raw. It's very guttural. It's not the class and sophistication of New York. Teray, New York. Spike, New York. They are allowed to have that, but what it will tell you this. Langston Hughes said that Zora Neale Hurston was a new version of the darky because she spoke in a Southern dialect. So you look at the two of them, who are brilliant in both their ways, but they also had their opinions. I can't fix that.
I'm glad I asked, because that's such an interesting answer, and you explore this culture, you give voice to this culture. And so my follow-up question to that, hearing you say it, is there this double standard where America, which has been enriched by so many of its diverse inhabitants, but is still, as we've seen in politics, predominantly this white overclass. Is there a double standard where white Americans are celebrated and encouraged to get as down into the Tennessee cowboy, that culture, and then you're saying that there's a version of black success in culture that requires you to somehow leave something behind? Why should anyone have to do that?
Well, exactly. That's exactly right. You said it exactly right. And I think that if we were to, as Black people, embrace all the different sides and shades of us and everywhere we've come from, we'd have a better appreciation for understanding that every one of us, we're not a monolith. Every one of us has our own stories, and every one of our stories deserve to be told.
All right, lightning round is pretty fun.
Okay. All right.
Atlanta or New Orleans?
Ooh. Atlanta, because New Orleans was the backdrop for me getting everything I needed to make it in Atlanta. Yeah.
Directing or writing?
Writing.
The most important thing I learned from Oprah is?
Everything.
I thought it was over when?
when nobody showed up to the first show.
A play or?
The play, yeah. I thought 1,200 people would show up over the weekend, and 30 showed up. I was like, thanks, over. My rent payment, car payments in it, ended up homeless.
Failure means?
Failure means try another way.
And success means?
Success means, still work like you're broke.
Still work like you're broke.
Still work like you're broke. I still work like I'm broke.
Tyler Perry, thank you so much for
My
coming.
pleasure, man. Thank you. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Really interesting to hear from Tyler Perry, especially right now. You can see the entire interview there at msnbc.com/ARI, as well as clips from tonight's show and this busy week and the Congresswoman. So you can always go there. That's where we keep track of our videos for you, and they're available. You can also always connect with me directly at arimelber.com. Just type arimelber.com into your browser or go to @arimelber on any social media you use. My question to end the week: do you agree with Tyler Perry that people must stand up to what he calls the, quote, assault on the rule of law? Connect with me at any of the means you see on your screen and tell me, do you agree with that? We certainly have heard from people from politics to the arts this week about standing up and making your voice heard. Thank you for spending time with us. I hope you have a great and restful weekend.